Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Really
Welcome to the Ultimate Spiritual Growth Giveaway. I am here with Divya Chandra. I'm Christine Agro. Sorry, I should introduce myself first. I'm here with Divya Chandra, who is on the other side of the world in India. Well, not quite the other side of the world, but far enough. Too far. Too far for my liking. I would prefer to be in the kitchen with her drinking tea and having toast. Hi, Divya.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I would rather be in your kitchen having you make something incredible. Or you could be here.
Yes, either one. Or someplace mutually getting to the same place. I'm not speaking. Sorry. So I love Divya. I've known Divya for a while. And she is the founder of the Women of India Summit. She is amazingly clear in her clairvoyance, although that's not something that she talks about quite often. But she is. She's pretty awesome. And she's got this really great, she has a theater background, and she has kind of danced around, I think it's fair to say, she's danced around this information in the ways that she has shared it with the world, actually presenting it through theater, a play that she directed and performed in. I think you wrote one too, yes? You wrote a play? Yes. So, I mean, it's information that she has been exploring for quite some time in a lot of different ways. But in her gift for the giveaway, it's, really very direct. There's no skirting around it. And it's really about the way that the stories that we hear as children and throughout our lifetime, and that are basically just ingrained in a historical perspective, I guess historical, societal, but through these telling of these tales, and she really is looking at how these have an impact on who we are and how we see ourselves, and maybe not so overtly, right? So kind of in a subtle sort of way. So Divya, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think we do have just a teeny bit of a delay, which she and I are used to dealing with, but I just want to let everybody know. So Divya, can you just talk a bit about, your point of view and where you're coming from with retelling tales?
I mean, I loved you pretty much captured my background. But the other thing that I do, which is, I call myself a Project Alchemist, a name you helped me come up with, because I help people, whether it's a project, whether it's business, whether it's branding, whether it's a personal life situation, I help them transform, whatever their problem is into something that's useful. And this actually came out of all the work that I'd, done as an actor, as a performer, and all the stories I would see that are predominant in my culture and how that's impacted the position of women primarily. And then when I started to work with people, whether it was the Women of India Summit or whether it was people one-on-one coaching, what I would notice is that eventually it would come back to the stories they were told, whether they were from America, whether they were from Japan, whether I worked with people in Australia. There's a Miranda Lambert song that says, "The house that built me." Mm-hmm. And I love that line because I think that's what stories are. They're the house that built us. They're like the foundation of who we are, how much we can be, how much we're allowed to have, how much volume, how loud can you be, how soft are you supposed to be. And I think if you look at the, current climate, politically, environmentally, socially, with all this Me Too, the Weinstein scandal, all the stuff that is happening in the world today, Prince Harry picking a commoner American person of color, Meghan Markle, to get married to, and the uproar around that today, in this day and age. If you go back to the roots of that, you go back to the what is supposed to be, like, but who decides what is supposed to be? And if you trace it back, it's in the stories that we've been told historically, or the stories we were told in our family of origin. And then it's the other part of that is the stories we decide to tell ourselves. So if you say to me, hi, I'm Christine Agro, and we say you and I meet at a train station, we start talking, where do you go first? You say, I am Christine Agro, I do, I come from, my parents were, my husband is, my child is. Those are all stories. And they're also you building another house, the house that built somebody else, something else. So it informs everything that you are, everything that you create, and who are you playing in that story defines so many things and limits so many things. And one of the things that I came to is that it looks unrelated, is that if you want to look at the lack in your life, whether it's the lack of healthy relationships, it's the lack of abundance, money, a certain position that you're looking for, you can trace it back to who you were in your story and what's the story you're telling and still living, which is not serving you, in a nutshell.
Okay. In a nutshell. Hey, wait, you brought tea?
I did. Sorry, I should have brought you one. And buttered toast with jam. Sarah knows what we're talking.
Nice.
Puran's buttered toast with jam.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, really powerful information. So just talk a little bit about the gift that you're offering, and maybe just one of the archetypes that are included, so that people get an idea of what the gift is, what the gift will do for them.
Okay. So in the larger course, we cover like a lot of archetypes, but 3 common ones that I found are Cinderella, Demeter, which is Mother Earth, always the nurturer, which many women will identify with, and Sita, which is the perfect wife, the good wife, the dutiful wife who does all the right things. Sita is an Indian archetype, but there is a version of her in every culture.
Right.
Why don't you, which one you think you want us to talk about? Since we have a different...
Let's talk about Cinderella.
Okay. So I found a common theme. I've written 2 plays about particularly this information. Tanny's saying hello, as you can hear him.
Hi, Tanny.
He has to be in session when we're together.
I have just everybody that I know and that I work with has animals, and they all like to join in. So,
including wild monkeys. When I'm up in my mountain house and Christina and I are talking, the monkeys start yakking at me, which is hilarious. I'm just waiting for the leopard.
So funny.
Okay, so I wrote a play called The Empty Vessel, and I wrote a play called Sangam, where the 3 rivers meet. And what I found to be true was I was getting all this information about women and goddesses. And I've studied archetypes. I have a literature background, so I've studied archetypes for a long time. And one of the common threads I see in all these stories, in every fairy tale, is a woman's connection to her power. And, that's the work you and I do. We help people empower themselves. And for me, Cinderella is a classic tale of the lady in waiting, the queen in waiting, the potential model actress waiting to be discovered, and it's this, if you look at modern versions of Cinderella, Pretty Woman is a great example. And everyone, why do we love these makeover stories? That the girl is just this, she's walking down the street, she's in her shorts and her t-shirt, and someone comes around and some version of the fairy godmother comes and finds her and gives her this beautiful makeover. And then the prince sees her. And I think if you look at young women today, or look at us as well, when we were dating, when did you ever think it was acceptable to just like put your hair up in a scrunchie and be in your shorts or your night suit and your pajamas and go out and meet a guy? We've been conditioned. The Cinderella story is about the makeover. It's that this beautiful girl has potential. She's lovely. You don't remember about Cinderella that she was... What do you remember about Cinderella? She doesn't have power or position just by virtue of who she is. She's not recognized. Yes, she's this poor little thing who's being tormented by her stepmother and her stepsisters. But her story is that she's only considered worthy when she gets the makeover, dresses up with her glass slippers, and is in her ball gown, and then she meets the prince. The prince doesn't recognize her when she's Cinderella scrubbing the floor. And think about what that does to you as a young person, in your idea of what women are meant to be, right? What it tells you about your value, that someone has to see your value before you see it yourself. Mm-hmm. You are a big teacher of self-validation, and that pretty much being the answer to every one of our problems. Right. But think about what Cinderella does to a young person, or even to me and you. Like, think about the Hallmark movies that we watch. So many of them are all one another fancy version, or of someone coming and discovering our worth and seeing who we are,
and saving
so
us.
Everybody, yeah, and also saving us, and also you're that person in waiting. You're that queen in waiting.
Right.
My aunt used to say something to me which has stayed with me my entire life. I'm going to say it in Hindi for our Hindi listeners, and I'm going to translate. And it says that she used to always say to me that adhikar diya nahi deta, jataya jata hai. Adhikar is right. And she says, your adhikar, your right, is never gifted to you. You always claim it. And I don't know why she ever said that to me. I mean, she said it to me in many contexts. And it's one of those phrases that's always stayed with me. And it's such a powerful thought when you think about it, that why should your position or your worth be gifted to you? Why do we not sit in it and claim it for ourselves as aspects of the feminine, as female, spirit in a female body? And that's why I have trouble with the Cinderella story. And I think it's such I'm really curious of what the original story is. And I've done a lot of research to find various versions of Cinderella.
Right.
But that's the main thing of Cinderella. If you think about it, how your dating life, how your love life, how your interactions with men, whether it's at work, whether it's your boss who you're waiting, you're hoping he sees me, he recognizes how good I am, how your relationship with other women, the competition energy with other women, all of this starts with the Cinderella story.
Right, right.
And interestingly, the men's version that we hear, where have you heard of a Cinderella? We've all heard the Grimm's brothers story. Have you ever heard of a story of Cinderella by a woman?
Right, right. I mean, we've got some interesting adaptations now in the 21st century. There's the and this is just it sort of lets you in on a little peek about like what I do in my spare time. There's the Hilary Duff version. There's the Selena Gomez version. There's I think there's one other one too.
And Barrymore did one too.
What?
There's Drew Barrymore as well.
Yes, the Drew Barrymore
did one.
Yeah, yeah. All interesting with sort of like a redemption piece at the end. But I think what's important, in case somebody's looking at those and saying, well, it's not, that's not but it is the Cinderella story, and it shows up in a lot of different things. And I always find that Pretty Woman movie so fascinating, because I actually loved it when it first came out. Like, I really, really loved it. But now I look at it and I'm like, what? Like, she's a hooker. She's he's paying her to stay there and gives her all this money. And like, why is this a good movie? Why do we think this is a good movie? I mean, it's just like,
again, in the makeover story. Yeah. When she goes to Rodeo Drive and those women won't serve her. And then he goes in with his credit cards and he's like, we're going to buy everything. And she wants to be, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, and I have met men who've told me that they're dated women who watch that movie every day and that's their fantasy. That's what they want.
Right. That someone will come and save them. Right. That someone will come and like you said, recognize their worth and elevate them to this place. And I mean, from working with me that if that is your life lesson, nobody is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself, right? You're going to sit there and you're going to wait for your Richard Gere to come on the, standing in the limo, singing the song, climbing up the ladder, even though he's afraid of heights. Like, what?
that's his, like, that's what he has to do, you know.
Right.
And that's the trouble I had with the Meghan Markle story. I have read so much rubbish about her, about the fact that why has he found this divorcee, you know, half black, half whatever her race is, and why has he picked whatever. And I'm like, who is he? Why don't you ask if he's a kind person? Is he worthy of her? Right. I love Prince Harry. I think he's adorable. I don't know him personally, but from what I've seen of him, you know, you just think, oh, he's Diana's son. He has to be lovely. And the fact that, you know, the way he is. But the fact that he's a prince is all that's required of him. And this is patriarchy through and through. Like, I live in a patriarchal country. Right. I deal with patriarchal men all the time. And this notion that they don't have to earn, he doesn't have to, Prince Charming doesn't have to earn Cinderella's hand just by virtue of him being a prince. And she dances at the ball with him. That's the end of the story.
Right.
And look at how many areas of a woman's mindset and psyche this impacts. The biggest being physicality. Look at these issues with anorexia, bulimia, body image that we're having today. This notion that we are not fine as we are, right? That we have to have the makeover. We have to look, like, this is a conversation I have with so many of my single friends about, you know, I feel comfortable enough to stand in front of him without makeup. And I'm like, I'm not judging them, but I'm exactly the same way. There are very few men, when I'm dating them, that I would feel comfortable to be in my, you know, my mountain house outfit, which is some version of super comfy and, like, I don't give a rat's ass.
Right.
And and I don't know this constantly, you know.
Yeah.
That, you know, the people that you, like, you know, that notion that men don't think about this. They meet us without being shaved, without having a bath, without them being waxed and, like, trimmed and whatever. But we do so much stuff. It's again like that, you know, those Chinese, when they used to bind women's shoes. Remember that historical?
The feet, yeah.
Yeah, the feet. It's another version of that.
Right.
And so I think Cinderella is such a simple story, but I wonder if people realize when they read it to their kids, like, what long-term damage it will do for them. You know? And I think, and of course, it's in our culture. You can't fight.
Right. And I was going to say, I think even if there's a version that has some, like, redeeming, uplifting, you know, something at the end, the point is why? Like, why even use that story? And how, I mean, we can look at, you know, Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella and even Little Red Riding Hood, like, all of these stories have become part of the framework for books and movies, right? So they're like, everything is derivative from, you know, we can trace many of these movies that are popular today back to stories that were written ages ago that have this theme. And we get these twists on them and stuff, but can't we come up with something new? Right? Can't we have some? Well, like,
I mean, the paradigm is completely different, right? Because all of these stories, what are the things that they have in common? The woman is disconnected from her power. She has to earn her place. Right. She's not given anything by virtue of just being herself. Just as she wakes up in the morning, like the guy, there's always some, like, she has to be virtuous. She has to be obedient. She has to be good. She has to be kind, self-sacrificing. She's always the victim. We don't applaud a Kali. You know, Kali, even in my culture, is considered, you know, no one wants to walk around saying, I'm Kali. You know, everyone wants to be Cinderella.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Kali is an incredible transformative force, but she's, you know, she's destructive. She's a flamethrower. I think you should write a whole series, Divya, of new children's stories that are, you know, retelling the tales. Yeah, right.
Making trouble again.
I know. Always fanning the flame.
I completely agree with you, because if you connecting it back to lack, like, if you look at, like, for the people who are watching, how does this connect to you? Okay, we get that this is how it impacts culture, but if you look at, if someone is listening who's single and looking to date, or is in an uncomfortable relationship, a lot of how you think about yourself or what you think things should be are defined by this. These are not real. The energy exchange between Cinderella and her stepmother and her interaction with the rest of the world is based on a false premise that you should be something, you should like twist and turn and make yourself this way so you'll be loved, you'll be accepted, you'll be seen, you'll be acknowledged. Look at how much time we women spend trying to contort ourselves into some version of patriarchal BS,
Right.
you know. And then how does that impact your love life? How does that impact your interactions at work with your male colleagues? Or even this could apply to a man as well. It doesn't, but I'm
Right.
speaking particularly
Well, I think
from a feminine point of view.
I think one of the things that I see, and not that you were, I think that was a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it. I think that one of the things that comes out of this, for women, I don't know. I mean, I guess men, I have seen some men do this, but, in that contorting and twisting and becoming this sort of, version of ourselves that isn't really who we are, is that when we actually do step into who we are in the relationship, a lot of times the person that we're with is like, who are you? Like, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yes.
we step into the relationship in an inauthentic way in order to claim the relationship. But that ends up having a negative ripple because it isn't who we are. So whether we're feigning to love football, but we actually hate it, just so that we can hang out with the person, or we're going to bed with our makeup on when we don't wear makeup. Right. I mean, it's all these different things that we do in the relationship space. And I think that, when we're starting into a relationship, that we can say to somebody, I don't like football, but I enjoy spending time with you. So I'm going to be here. Right. Because I enjoy spending time with you, which is different from like, putting on this facade and pretending like you actually enjoy something when you really don't.
You really don't. And if you think about the reasons why the divorce rates is so high now, even in our part of the world, where the cultural conditioning is so strong, is exactly this, because we go into these relationships with unrealistic expectations. Women go into it thinking, this man is going to rescue me, he's going to be the answer to all my prayers, he's going to fulfill all my unmet needs and desires and fill my wounds and heal my shadow side, without any, a notion of what it takes to be in an authentic, mutually open relationship. And I think part of it, I truly believe this when I work with clients, especially couples, you can really see that they both had a version of what the fairy tale was going to be like.
Yes.
And they played the role that they thought they would need to play to get the match. And once they actually have to do the day-to-day living, that's when people start falling apart. And exactly like you said, when the real person shows up, they're like, who the hell are you? That's not what I married.
Where did you come from? Yeah. And I do think, I mean, that expectation piece is probably the biggest core issue in relationships, is the expectations that each person bring or come into it without unconsciously having, knowing that they have these expectations, and that sort of projection onto the other person that this is what the relationship is going to be, because we can never meet those expectations and those projections. And I think whether we're talking about our partnerships or we're talking about our children, or even our friendships, that really having an awareness of what our own expectations are and clearing them, right? Finding that way to simply be in a relationship without the expectations. I think because really the expectations are about you are going to fulfill something within me, right? That's what the expectation is. You're going to heal me. You're going to fix me. You're going to support me. You're going to raise me up, and really it comes back to what I say all the time. That's exactly our job. That's why we're here. We're supposed to be doing these things.
But it is, Christine, honestly, like, think, you know this already. I'm preaching to the congregation. Think about all the issues that we have in relationships: boundaries, power struggle, position, intimacy, how much you share, authenticity. All of this comes down to what we think it's supposed to be. And so this is the nonsense we grew up listening to,
right?
And thinking that. And think about women. Like, I come from a country where women are, whether they make a certain level of income or don't, whether they work in the farms, positions in terms of power, self-esteem, position in the family are pretty much the same. It's not for everyone, but the bulk of the population is like that. And when you think of this, what's the word? Almost exalting the victim archetype of the woman who silently suffers. Cinderella is sitting and scrubbing. She doesn't get up and say, "Get out," or "Get out, this is my father's house."
Right.
To the sisters in her place. He has to wait for all the animals to get together and the fairy godmother to come down. Instead of claiming her power, like my aunt says, your right is never gifted to you.
Right.
And the Me Too and Time's Up are perfect examples of that. Women just getting up and saying, "I'm done, cut it out. This shit is not going to work."
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of reclamation, And if you look at this victim archetype, it's in so many of these stories, it's so revered, it's so celebrated. So women think that this is in India. Like, I hear it from empowered, educated women all the time, that this is not a woman's role. Just sit quietly and take it. Be nice.
Right.
Don't aggravate the situation. And you're applauded for being the one who sacrificed, who ate last, who sat and suffered through a thing. And again, it comes down to all of these patriarchal narratives are about women and disconnecting them from their power, their right, and their worth as spirit in a female body. We're not even talking about equal pay. We're not talking about right to drive. Whether you can have an abortion or not. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying simple right. That's why what my book is going to be called. The power to be. The idea that we're not allowed to just be ourselves.
Yes.
We have to earn that right. And all of these stories eventually come down to that.
So, everybody, this is the fabulous Divya Chandra.
And the amazing Christina.
Her Kali energy.
And not revered. No one other than you and my sister love my Kali energy.
I love it. So, everybody, if you have not grabbed Divya's Retelling Tales gift, and this is really intriguing you, I encourage you to go grab it, because she's going to talk about, the Cinderella archetype, but also two more, which is going to get things really moving in your space and bring things to the surface and let you start to, I think, see your world in a different way. So I highly recommend that you go grab that. I have loved this tremendously, Divya. Thank you for dropping by.
Thank you. I love spending any kind of time with you. And you and I could do this all day. And we have for long periods.
And we have. I know. I know. In very different places. All right, everyone. Before we wrap up, so any questions or comments for Divya? And just with all the other videos, if you're watching after the fact and you have a comment or question for Divya or me, just post it in the comments of the video and we'll circle back around and answer them. So, okay. All right.
Now I think I should do one as well.
What, hon?
Male archetypes.
Yes.
I think I should pick 3 male archetypes and put those up as well.
That would be interesting, right? That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely have the knight on the white charger, right, coming in and saving everything. We've got the bad boy. Like, I scratch my head at the bad boy all the time. Like, what is that? What is that? Right?
It's because when you don't claim your own shadow, in these books, then that's how it mirrors back, right? The bad boy, the one who's the opposite of you, because you don't claim those parts of yourself.
Right.
We're not taught to. Then you need someone to treat you badly. So you
But I
get
want to
that.
know how he becomes the bad boy, right? I know why. I know the attraction to the bad boy, but I want to know what's underneath him becoming the bad boy.
Unmet
Right.
needs, and it's again power, right?
Yeah.
And a lack of wanting to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? It's control power. It's about not wanting to be vulnerable. So you're the bad boy. You're the one who leaves, right? You're the one
Right.
the heartbreaker. You don't get your heart broken. Vulnerability, right?
Right. I know. All right.
What I hear common with men is the responsibility piece, that they have to look after everybody, and they have to look, and that's the piece that they struggle with. So I'm actually gonna look into this and see which archetypes. I like the bad boy one though.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I've always been fond of the bad boy. All right. Thank you so much. I love you. And
I love you.
we'll see you soon. But everybody grab Divya's gift, and you've got 6 days left. That's plenty of time. And I will see you all this afternoon at 4 o'clock with Hope Fitzgerald, who is an intuitive dowser, and I cannot wait to talk to her.
I'm going to take a photo.
You're going to take a photo?
I want to take a photo.
Okay,
yeah, I want to take a photo for my...
I'm not sure what you're doing, but okay. All right, everybody. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Divya.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye. Thank you, Dr. Dimple.